Yeah. Great to meet you, Andrew. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How's St. Louis today?
It's a little humid
Yeah.
after the storms, but it's good. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for mailing the album. My son Miles is a huge fan of the album artwork, and he was like saw it and was like, "Hold on, let me see that." And so it's good. It sounds good. It looks good. Thank you for sending it. And before we get into the album, I want to know the last 3.5 years or so with COVID's been quite a thing. How did you survive as a jazz musician, and how has it changed you now that we're coming out of it?
Yeah. Well, when COVID first happened, I was doing my doctorate at UIUC, University of Illinois, and in Champaign, Urbana. And at first, like everything was shut down, but luckily, it's not like a super populated area, so we kind of got to keep playing mostly outside, and then after I don't know 6 or 8, 9 months, we were still playing gigs. Whereas like in New York or Chicago, they weren't playing gigs. So now we weren't maybe making a ton of money, um, but I was also still getting paid from the university through a teaching assistantship, so that helped. But the yeah, I'm grateful that I didn't really stop playing very much, so it didn't really impact my growth as a musician. I felt like too much. Um, Now, in terms of like today, it's yeah, I mean, kind of like learning to diversify, I guess, like your income or like streams of like how you get gigs, but I'm also still figuring it out. It just makes me, if anything, more grateful for the opportunities I get, and try to take advantage of them as much as I can.
Talk about the new album. It has to feel good for it to be coming out now, I would think, with everything opening up and just kind of in general. How does the album feel?
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, at the beginning of this year, I like at the very beginning, I was like, okay, I'm gonna really go at this and write all this music and record it and then release it Friday the 13th in October. Like I looked at my calendar, I was like, that's the perfect release date for this. So yeah, everything lined up well, and I had a great group of musicians in Urbana at the time. That was where I was at. Um, that would help me, like, we would rehearse stuff and workshop stuff. And some of this music I had written, I don't know, a couple years ago. So it's been a little bit of a process, but I didn't really pursue it until this year. And then, and probably wrote way over half of what was on the record. Um, but yeah, do you want me to go into, my thought process behind it, or
Yeah, just kind of the
uh,
artistic construction of the album. Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, the sort of how it initially started, I started writing like this Squatch Watch one and Moonwalk for a composition class at school. And the Squatch Watch, it used to be called Bigfoot, but it's a contrafact on giant steps. So that was like our assignment, to write a contrafact. And and then the other one was to write a 12 tone composition. So I would write, I would name silly titles for some of these compositions that were for this class. But then eventually I was like, that might be kind of fun to, do a bunch of music based on these conspiracy theories. And I don't remember exactly how I got into some of them, but eventually I found out. I mean, I kind of knew of all along, but what really made the idea stick is there's conspiracy theories about musicians, not just, paranormal stuff. And from that, I was like, well, if I write this music about these musicians, I can take some of their music and sort of twist it, make it twisted like the ideas of like conspiracies are twisting information to make it more relevant to the conspiracy. And that way it's referencing the music or the artist that it's about, uh, and kind of like going within this conspiracy idea. Um, and then, like, basically every single tune on this is steeped with references. So, like the Bigfoot one, Squatch Watch, that's the contrafact on giant steps. The Stevie Wonder one is like superstition, but I flipped over the bass line and I stretched it out so it's in like 9/4 weird time signature. The Mandela Effect one, I the song starts out one melody and it's spelling out Mandela in the chord changes, and then at the end of the song, it's completely flipped. So it's a completely different melody, hence the Mandela effect. You think it's one way, but it's the other. Rush for Area 51 has a bunch of like Star Wars, Star Trek, ET
Yeah.
themes put in there. uh, and the list goes on. Um, Probably my favorite one as far as the references go is the Birds Aren't Real one,
Yeah.
where I throw in a bunch of bird calls, and the tune itself is a contrafact on Ornithology, the Charlie Parker tune, or How High the Moon. Um, and then from that, uh, I really wanted to collaborate with an artist, but partially because of budget reasons, um, I was like, I should just do it myself because I had a very clear vision for what I wanted the art to be, and I wanted like different caricatures, so to speak, or vignettes of to represent each of the tunes, and then put them together in a collage. And so, yeah, a part of that, I just basically taught myself Photoshop stuff. For each tune, I took a picture with my phone of like a texture that I thought represented that track. So like the Beyonce one has like a shiny uh, gold on it,
Yeah.
and the moonwalk one, um, or no, sorry, the Avril Lavigne one has kind of like a punk on the skateboard,
Yeah.
has like a Converse kind of pattern. But then I use
Yeah.
that for different types of things. Um, and Yeah, I kind of sketched these out prior without having any of these colors in mind. And then eventually I just kind of pieced it all together. And I also did the album artwork. So, like the back, I literally just, I had a folder, yellow folder that I put all this on. And I
Yeah.
just took a picture of it and had like all these loose keyboard keys that I spelled out like the conspiracy name with and put all the track listings on. So it was a lot of fun
Yeah.
to
It
do all the
looks like it.
artwork.
Yeah. It looks like it for sure. So, how did this journey into the music begin for you? How did you start getting into music and jazz? Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in St. Louis, not too far from where I live right now. Um, and I kind of got into it late. I mean, my mom is a pianist and an organist. But the funny thing is, I kind of thought music was just like reading notes off the page. So like when I was really young, I took piano lessons, but I never really was excited about it and I never really practiced or whatever. And then I was in band. I played trombone before bass, actually, in band, and it was just kind of the same. I mean, it was fun, but then eventually, for some reason, I wanted to learn guitar, and then my guitar teacher was like, "Oh, you can make stuff up and improvise, like blues or whatever," and I was like, mind blown, and that really uh, you know, made something special for me in terms of expressing myself. So it was kind of a uh, what is it? Downhill from there. Because my guitar teacher wanted me to switch to bass, and I ended up liking that more for like a rock band that he had uh, with students. And then I was like, oh, upright bass would be kind of cool to learn, and so I did that. And then I learned like accordion, and I took composition lessons, and but that wasn't until like high school. So um, until I really got into music, and then even then, I didn't really decide I was going into music until towards the end of high school, but I like couldn't really see myself doing anything else. Um, and so yeah, and I've also always been kind of like straddling between contemporary classical stuff, composition, and jazz, both straight ahead and modern, whatever, funk stuff, all the above. Um, so this is kind of like more in between, and that's ideally what I kind of try to shoot for. But it depends on what resources I have and who's down to play it.
Yeah, right on. So what was the first live jazz show that you ever saw that blew you away?
That's a good question. Um, I remember in high school there was this pretty cool uh, workshop with Stanley Clark at what was Jazz at the Bistro. Now it's Jazz St. Louis, and he was great, and he was playing like crazy. Uh, John Clayton also came with Cyrus Chestnut to my high school, um, and that was pretty cool. And I think he even like played my bass or something like that.
Nice.
Or other than that, those are like the first
Yeah.
earliest things that come to mind. But I don't know if there's no one strictly defining performance on the top of my head, at least.
Yeah. No, those are good ones for sure. So in this journey of being a professional musician, what do you like the best about it? What is it that motivates you the most?
um, I think it's kind of tied together with just the act of like expressing myself, but like using that expression to have an impact on others, um, and making an artistic statement. Like when you sent that email, you're saying you love the album, you know, it was like a great book. That's exactly what I want to hear from people who are listening to it. Um, and I want to make music that selfishly I want to hear. So like if I were to hear this on the radio or whatever, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I need to check that out. Or at least that's my goal. I, if I heard this on the radio, I might be like, oh, who's that bass player? And he,
Yeah.
he kind of sounds rough, but yeah. And so that's my ultimate goal, to make artistic, statements, but also I do love the interactive aspect of jazz, the improvisational, the conversational aspect, and there isn't a whole lot of music that's quite like that. Um, so I think that's also why I've gravitated towards this realm of stuff.
So why do you love jazz?
Well, that the improv aspect is one aspect of it. I've It's probably the most connected I feel in terms of music genre, because it's kind of like when I'm playing, it's almost like I'm dancing or something, like with the sound waves, and then dancing with other people. Um, and there's nothing that I do musically that's quite like that. Um, I mean, there's, like wedding bands or like pop music bands, but some of those they want you to play like exactly like the record or something, and that just kind of takes the purpose out of it sometimes for me. I mean, not to knock that at all, but that's definitely the most inspiring aspect and the most gratifying aspect of it. Um, Now, on the other hand, for like when I'm writing music, I'm also like a guy who likes to do like little puzzles or something. So, and when I first started learning composition, I wanted to learn how music worked because I would hear it and it would make me feel good, but I wouldn't understand why it would make me feel good. So, the compositional side of that is kind of scratching uh, that inventive brain side of mine. So, yeah.
So everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, but you ultimately lead the charge. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
That's a good question. Because normally, most people who meet me, I'm very quiet, seem very quiet, very reserved, very um, like I don't want to offend anybody, which is true. But I think once I get comfortable, like I like to do wacky stuff. uh, um, I also come off as like I don't show emotion, but uh, it's kind of more the opposite of that. It seems to me, at least, and that's music for me is a way to kind of tap into that emotional side of who I am, and so I like to show my emotion through the music, and also to people who are important to me. So I don't like to show all my cards, so to speak.
I dig it. So the album comes out on my birthday, actually. I was actually born on Friday the 13th.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, it's a good day. I'm not afraid of the day. So let everybody know the best place to pick the album up, anything about live shows, anything about your world, where can they go?
Yeah, so it's currently out on Bandcamp right now. Uh andrewbender.bandcamp.com, where you could buy it physically, and there's a bunch of merch. There's stickers of each of the individual art pieces I made. There's a poster. Uh, that's back here.
Yeah, it's
I also
nice.
made. Um, I'm finishing up doing these beanies,
Nice.
and they're like shiny too, or like reflective. So
Yeah,
they're supposed to be like tinfoil hats.
nice.
Anyway, so that's all on the Bandcamp. But other than that, on Friday 13th, October Friday 13th, you can get it anywhere on the streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube. Um, and you can check out my website, andrewbendermusic.com. We're going to be touring all across the Midwest. So starting October 11th, we're going to be in Urbana to kick it off at the Rose Bowl Tavern. The next night, we're going to be in Chicago at Fulton Street Collective, uh, 8 o'clock show. The next night, we're at Merriman's Playhouse in South Bend, Indiana, 7:30. The 15th, we're in St. Louis at this place called Jack's Joint at O'Connell's Pub. And then there's a few other shows we're going to be playing at Bop Stop. We're going to be playing at Ginger Rabbit in Columbus, and we're on this Champaign Urbana Jazz Festival, and that's about it.
Okay. Right on.
But all those dates should be on my website if you want to check those out. And yeah,
Right on.
thanks for listening.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for talking about the album, your life and music, the whole story. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And